And we're going to jump right into the next topic because we have a big conversation ahead of us here. The 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs will be going against each other for the second time in the Super Bowl in 2 days. 2 days, dude. And it's sneaking up on us and it's coming around the corner so fast. And this is going to be such a good game. And I don't know where to go with this. Like, I have so many emotions and so many feelings about how this game is going to go, but I want to hear your just initial thoughts and how you think the Super Bowl is going to go, who you think's going to win. What's it look like for you on Sunday?
I mean, initial thoughts. I mean, it's just running to the left with 23 and 71, setting the blocks, and then
Mm-hmm.
getting those play actions across the field to either 85 or 11, man, and then throwing the ball out wide to Debo. That's our offense, in my opinion, is because we have those players where even though it's so predictable, the year that all of those guys have had, of course with Purdy, that we're still going to be able to get away with it, in my opinion. Defense
Mm-hmm.
wise, I think we are extremely set up for this game for Mahomes, in my opinion, because
Mm-hmm.
this is Mahomes, 4 years later? It's not 2019, 2020 anymore. That guy's not running as much as he is. Still going to run for at least 3 to 4 first downs. I'm just not going to be too happy, but I'm expecting that, kind of like what Lamar did with us. But just with this 49er team, it's what we talked about in preseason. It was a Super Bowl or bust team with all the people we have, and we did our job getting to this moment. They did their job. We did our job. They did their job getting to that. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And we just have to execute. I think with how these teams are matched up, I think 100% it is the 49ers game to lose.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I think that we are a massive favorite. And we play like we played against, I want to say, LA in the second half in week 4 or whatever that was. It's a second half team. I know we were talking about it that we can't be a second half team, but it's coming out and you just take what the defense gets you, get the checkdowns, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? And run the football. Just give it to
Yeah.
your playmakers, man. That's all we got to do. Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
it's of course way easier said than done, but I think we have a phenomenal chance against this team. You know what I mean? But it's going to be a shootout, 100%. I really don't see this game. I don't see anybody winning more than 7. I think it's going to be a very close game.
I think it's going to be a close game too. I'm not going to say we have a phenomenal chance, but
I
I
do.
mean, obviously, we have a chance. But phenomenal is a little too far for me. Like we were on the phone the other day, and I'm going to bring up a couple points that we talked about. First off, if the 49ers play like they played in the playoffs, they will lose this game. They will lose against the Chiefs if they play like they did against Green Bay and if they played like they did in the first half against Detroit. They're going to lose. And that is why I don't have a ton of confidence. The 49ers are not playing their best football coming into the Super Bowl. They're playing their second worst stretch of football of the season outside of that three-game skid in the middle of the regular season. This is some of the worst football we've seen from them this season. They should have lost to the Packers. I mean, that Packers game, they got bailed out. Kyle got bailed out in the end. Kyle was terrible against the Packers. Should have lost that game, and we should have lost to Detroit. If Dan Campbell went for a touchdown at the end of the first half, that game is over. They're going to get that. I mean, okay, I guess you never know. Anything can happen in a football game, but I'm going to say the chances are in their favor to score right there. This game is over, and we would have lost going into the half down 24 instead of 17. I don't think the 49ers are playing good enough football right now for me to think we have a phenomenal chance at win. We have a chance. We have a chance because we're here. But no way is it a phenomenal chance because they aren't giving me a reason to believe that we're walking into this game and we're just going to kick some butt when in reality, we should have been out of the playoffs 3 weeks ago.
Nah, see, that's crazy, Hernandez, because look at it, okay? I get it. Any given Sunday when we played on Saturday versus Green Bay, but you got to look at it. I'm not disagreeing with you that those games were not the best. 100%. In a lot of aspects, they were bad, horrible in others. But that's the thing. It's playoff time. Look what happened. And when we were playing horrible football, we stepped up when we needed to. Our quarterback stepped up when he needed to. Our defense went berserk against Detroit. Absolutely berserk. Now,
Mhm.
a bunch of, I mean, there was at least 2 times minimum where Dan Campbell should have kicked a field goal. I understand that, but guess what? Pat McAfee was saying, where you live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's what got them there, was going for it.
Mhm.
It was going for it, trying to push the ball, get him upfield, and just bleed that clock, get 7 on the board, or get a chip shot 3, even though they were kind of already in chip shot range. So I understand what you're saying, where you don't have as much confidence as I do because of the pure game film and what we were playing like versus both of those teams. I understand that. But I just think with this team, the culture of this team right now, how the defense is set up, even though defense has been very sketchy, the play calls have been very sketchy in the playoffs and even in the last couple weeks. I
Oh yeah.
just think that this team, it's this is the best team we'll see, I think, in our generation. And I
Mhm.
don't think that's a bad take at all. And that's just kind of
Mhm.
why this confidence is it's at a new level where I'm really expecting them to do it. Now, 2019, we were kind of talking the same way because we had a very similar team in 2019. I get it,
Mhm.
much different quarterback, much different
Mhm.
running back,
True.
different line for the most part, better, worse. Same thing with D line, secondary, sure, but I just it's this is the team one and I think they're going to show that. I know they're going to show that. This is the 49ers. This is the team that's going to do it. We
I
got a
agree.
revenge tour. We got a guy
Mhm.
we know. We got a guy we know. You know what I mean? In 15 on the opposing side, we know what he's going to do. We know who he's going to throw to.
That doesn't matter though. I mean, it
We're
doesn't
going to
matter
blow him up.
if we know. Listen, I think that this is the best team the 49ers have had. And that this is the best team the Niners have had. I wasn't alive in the 90s, and I know they stacked up a couple of those seasons, but I mean, we might, roster wise, it might be pretty close in how good this team is, right? So, like you said, we're not going to see a better team than we have right now. That being said, why are we not playing like that? Why are we not playing like the best team, like the best roster in the history of the 49ers franchise? We're not. We're just flat out, we are not playing that way, which is what scares me when you might be able to get away with that against the Packers and a young Jordan Love who's making his first playoff appearance. And you might be able to get away with that against Dan Campbell's Lions, who Dan Campbell just gets way too aggressive and doesn't know how to. You might be able to get away with. You think you're going to get away with that against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelsey? It's not going to fly as
That's
easy as.
happened. Not saying that it's gonna unfold like that. It's just now look,
Well,
100%.
I'm
We
just.
haven't been playing this way because there's been certain play calls, dude, and you know that better than
I
anybody
agree.
else on the offense and defense.
I agree.
100% more so on offense than defense in versus the Packers. Packers was the worst offensive play calling I've ever seen in my life, and I rarely say that about with coaching and this and that. But it's just I see what you're saying where we can't play the way we played in both of these games because if we do, we're going to lose by 50. I'm not arguing that. I'm not.
Mhm.
But guess what? We got another 2 more days to prepare, really a day. But also they've had a week of pure film getting prepared for this guy. If not a week and a half. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they took the whole 2 weeks. These guys are just ready to get to Mahomes. Dude, you disrupt 15, game over. Later. Later,
And
just
see,
hey, right
that's
here.
a
No, yes,
lot
yes.
easier said than
15,
done.
I get it, but guess what? You disrupt that guy, game over. I don't care
Did
about don't get okay. Pachenko, he's
we
nice. Okay, I
we
forgot about
had
number 10.
listen, we had the same situation in 2019. We had 2 weeks to prepare for this guy and watch the film on the
Okay,
MVP
we
of the
had number
NFL.
10. We had 10. We had 10.
True. Very
And we
true.
didn't have 2
You're
3.
right. You're right. That's true. I agree. We had Kyle though. And Kyle,
Yeah,
he's
true.
and so okay. But listen, dude, I'm not judging. All I'm saying is I think your confidence is just a little too high. It's just higher than mine right now, just because if we were running through teams, if we were playing like we were playing in the beginning of the season, I'd be
Yeah.
right there with you, dude. I'd be right there with you because this team, I know it. I know how talented this roster is. And I'd be right there saying we are the best team in the league and we can take down Kansas City. But we're not playing like that. Again, if we play like we have, listen, against the Lions, against the Packers, and you could even go back to against the Rams in week 18. I know they did not look good. I know it was some backups
Yep.
started to get in there, but we did not look good against the Rams in week 18. If we play like that, any of those 3 games, we will lose. 100%, we are not going to win. We have to turn it around somehow. And I'm just hoping that they can.
Well, you hope, and they did versus Detroit. Dude,
In the
that's
second
second
half, sure,
half.
but yeah,
I
okay,
get it. You can't be a second half team. I'm not
that's it
looking
though.
for that. I'm not looking for that at all. But what can we judge after the last 15 minutes that were played, or last 30 minutes that were played in the last game they did? They absolutely balled out on both sides of the ball. They balled out. They
Yeah,
played
they
49.
did.
That was 49er football.
Yeah, but what they do for the first 30 minutes, and I know you brought that up, but I'm just saying you can't do
Their
that
defense
against Kansas City.
our defense got ran through. Literally got ran
Exactly.
through.
Exactly,
But
and you
we
can't
kept
do that
going.
against Kansas.
I
Yeah, but
understand that
I'm saying
because
this
yeah,
though.
you're not facing Goff, even though I love Goff.
Exactly. I know.
You're facing first ballot Mahoney. I got you. I
I'm a
know.
golf guy. I'm a golf guy too. I'm with on Jared Goff. I think he's good. But listen, I just when you look at when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, you're playing against Andy Reid. You're playing against the 2-time Super Bowl champions, the guys who have won 2 Super Bowls in the past 4 years. One of them against us. You're not going against the Detroit Lions, who made their first conference championship in the past 50 years. It's a different team, and if you want to go down a 17-point hole in the first half, pack your bags at halftime and fly back to Santa Clara because you're not going to win that game against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, well, that's all right because that ain't gonna happen. It's just not. It's not.
I hope it's not.
Oh, it's not because we're gonna run to the left with 2-3, and we're gonna throw the ball to 85 and let him go to work. Okay,
Listen,
that's what we're gonna do.
I like that. And I think this is my kind of game plan for the 49ers here is what I think they should really be focusing on is running the football. My 2 X factors, run the football, get pressure on Mahomes. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
And I think Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey should get a combined 30 carries. I think they should get a combined 30 carries. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you got to run it down their throats. I think that's what's going to be the recipe to win the game. McCaffrey and Deebo should get 30 carries
So
in this game.
Deebo with like 10? You want Deebo to get 10?
McCaffrey's got to get like 24, maybe 6.
Yeah.
This is a Super Bowl, man. You got to. I mean, it's not. What are we saving him for, right? It's like now.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
I think you got to get those guys a ton of carries, and then you got to get pressure on Mahomes because we didn't get much pressure. We didn't sack Jordan Love once, right?
No,
we didn't get much pressure on Jordan Love.
Absolutely balled out. We got pressure on that guy 6 times out of the 50 snaps, and 5 of the times we got pressure on him, he evaded and threw dots. I mean, he balled out.
Well, Mahomes is going to do the same thing, but you just got to get pressure. You got to just, regardless of what the quarterback's going to do with
this D-line,
you're making it tougher on the quarterback when you apply the pressure. And like you just said, with the defensive line, we have invested so much into our front 7. We have so much invested in our front 7, and we should be getting more pressure than we actually do get.
I mean, 100%. Let's look at Tampa Bay versus KC. That game was extremely boring in the second half because all we were watching was Mahomes run around because of his O-line. I'm pretty sure they were missing a tackle. Am I correct? Or 2?
I think
something.
So. Yeah.
I think it was 2, at least 1. I remember that, and I was like, all right, that's kind of tough for you to lose. I mean, O-line is extremely vital point in football that doesn't get talked about enough, but then also sometimes does. But I think 100%. Just it's what you're saying. Flush for the quarterback, run that football. You know what I mean? You know, if we're able to get him off his back foot, he's got to get out of the pocket. If he gets out of the pocket and makes a pass, good for him. But what we can't do is let him get a bunch of these 7-step dropbacks, just like they don't want Purdy to drop back. Nobody wants any quarterback to. You know what I mean? On the opposing team. So I just think, though, too, why I'm still very confident, even though our D-line has been very shaky as well, too. And for almost the entire year, they've been underdeveloped on paper-wise. On paper, this team should lead the league by sacks by 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially with the pickup of Chase Young. But I know with our pressures and our coverage, I understand that. But I think going into certain players where Fred Warner is right now, he's in his prime. He's having the best year of his life. Ward having the best year of his life. Greenlaw, it's just smash mouth defense, even though that's not even a thing. You just swarm them. You know what I mean? So I'm very confident in that. Biggest thing we got to what Niners got to worry about too is 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pachenko's top 5. He's proven that this year, the way that guy can run, and his stats, it backs it up. You know, so they got some big threats. They got some really big weapons on that team, and of course that's known. But it's going to be really, really exciting, really fun. But like I said, I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to. I don't know the score yet, but it's going to be a big one.
I think we're going to need to see a lot of adjustments made from Kyle Shanahan and from Steve Wilkes. I think those two guys have kind of been the dumb and dumber of the 49ers playoff run so far. They both need to figure some things out because I've said 50 different times in this episode, you cannot play like you did against Detroit and then against Green Bay. You just can't. Second half, Detroit's different, but you can't go down that much in the first half. It's a 60-minute football game.
I mean, second half Detroit, nobody's touching that team. Just like second half or first half KC or a certain game that Green Bay had. I get it. It's momentum. 100% it was momentum. You don't get that catch with Brandon Ayuk without momentum. You don't get that fumble by Gibbs without momentum. I get it. The play, both of those plays, a player made a great play for that to happen. I understand that, but momentum is a real thing. So that was a huge factor that we were home, a huge factor where the ball, fell literally just right there. We got it out, whatever. But what I'm happy about is, like I was saying, these guys have had 2 weeks, a true week and a half to prepare for one team, one coach, one quarterback, one running back. Same on the other. Same with KC. They've had plenty of time to prepare for us.
Oh yeah.
But man, I'm just really pumped. It's the team. That's all I'm gonna say. This is the team.
This is the team. I agree. I think if you don't win it with this team, you're never gonna win it. I think if you don't win it,
that's a fact.
If you don't win your 6th Super Bowl this year on Sunday, that puts Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat. Well, it won't put Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat, but it should.
Oh, no.
And
yeah. No, unfortunately it would. That's not going to happen. But if
I think he should. Well, okay. I think Kyle Shanahan, my general opinions on Shanahan. I think for the most part, not counting the playoffs, Kyle Shanahan was kind of in his bag in this regular season. Outside of the 3-game skid, there were some questionable things going on in there. Kyle Shanahan, I think, had this offense looking great. Now, playoffs rolled around, and against Green Bay, he tried his hardest to make us lose that game, which is what he does best in the playoffs. But that's why I'm just saying, I think Kyle Shanahan, this is your year, dude. This is kind of this is the year for you to finally get over the hump, because everyone wants to tell me that this guy is this greatest coach, offensive mind in the history of the entirety of the world, and yet he has not even had one Super Bowl, and he's been to these stages so many times, and he's just lost it. So I think that this is his season to do it. If he doesn't do it, his seat should be getting very warm. We should be turning on the seat warmers for this guy, because his seat needs to get hot, and then that could be the end. I mean, it just shows that he's not able to do. What more do you want? That's all I'd ask him. I'd say, hey man, what more do you want?
Yeah, no, 100%, very, very genuinely. What more do you want, Kyle? What, seriously? And what more would you need? You wouldn't need anything else besides Tom Brady. That's the only thing this team. That's it. That's the only thing you can really ask for with any team. But I get that, but it's all right. It's all right, because when we get out of this with 58 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, so let's hear it. Let's hear your final prediction. I mean, what do you got for the Super Bowl?
I mean, I got Bang Bang Niner game, baby. I got Mr. Irrelevant holding up the Lombardi and proving everybody wrong.
Super Bowl MVP?
I got really McCaffrey. McCaffrey's gonna have 160 with 2. You know what I mean? And he's gonna have 50 receiving yards with 8 catches. You know what I mean? He's just gonna, and I'm gonna be fine with that. You know what I mean?
Niners now, by how much?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Okay, Niners. No, Niners. Let's see the real score. Real score. Bro, honestly, 31-27, dude. I just see it as, I know a lot of people have Super Bowls like that where it's right at the spread or right at the over-under or really close kind of game where that's high scoring. 31-27 is very high scoring for a Super Bowl, in my opinion. Just especially with both of those defenses. But what you will see is Patrick Mahomes is going to throw the ball over 34 times. He is going to have about 315 yards. He's going to have 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, with a completion rate of 60
picks.
He's going to have 2 picks. One by Gibson Jr. One by Gibson Jr. and a toss up to Brown or Warner. Heard it here first.
Patrick Mahomes will not have 2 interceptions. Unless there's a tip ball off the hands of Kadarius Toney.
Pick.
Yeah, it's a pick. Okay, I guess
not going in the game. 19 is not touching the grass, dude.
Patrick Mahomes will not have 2 interceptions that are both his fault. I'll say that. Our defense won't be doing.
He'll have one. He will have one, 100%.
Maybe one, but definitely not 2. But again, listen, I gotta give a prediction here, and I'm being honest. I gotta be objective here. I gotta take out the bias, and I gotta go Chiefs by 3. If I was a betting man, I think that's how this game. I think that's how this game's
gonna
end.
Why am I looking at you right now, dude? Why am I on your screen? What are we doing?
Listen, dude. That's just. I gotta call it how it is. What do you want me to say? The Niners are gonna win every single game. That's what I don't like about this fan base. Listen. All I'm saying is I'm not rooting for Chiefs by 3. That's not what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Niners by 50. But if I gotta put money on it and I gotta put out a prediction, I gotta go Chiefs by 3. You know why? I'll tell you why. I mean, I've told you why a little bit, but I'll just say this. They've got the best of us before. They've got guys who actually know what it takes to win a Super Bowl. We got a bunch of
No, true.
I was gonna say clowns, but I'm not gonna say clowns.
Hey, whoa. No, I get it.
You call Kyle a clown.
70% or 80% of that team, at least 70%, has been on that Super Bowl team. I'm imagining. You know what I mean? Of course, I should say at least 50% of those guys know exactly what it takes. And I think 50% also knows what it's like to have 2 Super Bowl rings. So that's a huge factor. You know what I mean? That's like the Warriors.
Exactly.
With you know what I mean? And I know that's being talked about experience and how we're still we're not a young team, definitely not compared to other teams in the league, but with Super Bowl experience, we are very young compared to KC, which is
exactly
huge. It's in huge favor of Kansas City.
Yeah, I think that's going to play a part in it for sure. And I mean, like I said, man, Kansas City got the best of us once before, got the best of Kyle. Kyle flustered. Again, we have a different quarterback, which is a huge thing as well. We have a quarterback who's actually, competent enough to win a Super Bowl potentially. Like I believe that Brock Purdy, I mean, I've seen from Brock Purdy. I believe that he could win this game on Sunday, right? So also I've seen some bad things from Brock Purdy. I've seen some stinkers from Brock Purdy, right? He hasn't been phenomenal in the playoffs himself, right? He's come through a couple times when it mattered though. This isn't about that. All I'm saying is that looking at these teams here and looking at how they're playing, if I was a betting man, give me Kansas City by 3. But as a 49er fan, I hope I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong here, but that's just where I have to lean because of this 49er team is not playing like the best assembled roster in the NFL. They're just not. And if they were, it'd be you'd hear a different prediction coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. So you have KC by 3. Okay. So I got SF by 45. Okay.
Okay. I like, well, again, listen, I'm more for the objectivity than the bias, but listen, all I'll say is this. if the 49ers win, I think the easy choice, I mean, it's Purdy or McCaffrey, but I really feel like we're going to have a good Debo game, and he'd be a guy for the Super Bowl MVP. I feel like
that'd be insane. 19 Super Bowl MVP
would be pretty insane. Fire. It would be. Listen, I mean,
he would see, but that's the thing is like for a receiver to get that. I mean, like an Edelman, where it's a very low-scoring game, and he just has these catches. You know what I mean, like an Edelman game. But I don't see that happening. I think the ball would go to Ayuk in those
valid
scenarios. You know what I mean? Or 8-5. I'm fine with Debo, whatever. But for Debo to get that MVP nod, I think you would have to have, of course, at least a receiving tutty, 10 plus, and about 130, and Purdy to only have 1 or 2 passing. You know what I mean? And same thing.
Yeah.
It would be, I think odds wise, let's just say like Brock Purdy and Mahomes are both plus 350s. I think that would mean Debo has to be like a plus 950 or a plus 1100 in my opinion. You know what I mean? Just because then you have guys like Pacheco, you have guys like McCaffrey. You know what I mean? Even, defense wise, like Warner, you would have to go. I mean, you just have to absolutely go berserk for you to be a defensive guy to get it. That would be the coolest thing ever. It would be. Okay. Like betting wise, I go McCaffrey.
Mhm.
Let's go for the other betting guy. Other betting, KC Mahomes. Now, for fun, 100%, I would love it. The best outcome ever. We win by a field goal. We win by 1. We win by 50, and Fred Warner gets Super Bowl MVP. That would be the coolest thing ever.
Mhm. Yeah, I would
That would
like
be my
that.
number one. If I could just give it to a guy and just pick it out, and I had that power, it'd go to 54, dude. I mean, he's
I
insane.
love
That'd be very
Fred's the
cool.
jersey. He's the jersey I rep now in the playoffs. I mean, we've been winning with it, so I got that 5-4
There
on
you
my
go.
back, dude, and I've
There
been
you
loving
go.
it. So